Alright, we're back on day number 4, and again where I left off was getting that new veneer on the top. So let's get these clamps off now and just take a look at the veneer, see if it laid down flat, and make sure we don't have any cleanup here before we start doing some sanding. Okay, the moment of truth here. Let's see what this looks like. A little messy there with some of the glue that leaked through, but that looks good. Looks like everything laid down nice and flat as well. Again, I let this set up for almost 24 hours, so I want to make sure it laid down. I hope my strategy here where I said I wanted to sand back through this piece and overlap was not a mistake, but just thinking back, if I had it to do over, I think I'd just cut it precise, but hopefully this won't create a problem for me. So let me get these clamps out of the way, grab some sandpaper here, and let's just start sanding away here some of the flaws and get this ready for some toner lacquers whenever the weather allows us to do so. Okay, I think I mentioned cutting the veneer pieces here just a little long. Maybe you can see that there on camera if it's showing up. So they overlap the back section here, and I could just take again a razor here and cut those off, but I'm going to just sand those down flush. And one little tip too, of course, this little homemade sanding block here, what I'm going to use is I'm going to put my sanding block here over the top of the veneer up to the point where I want to sand this off. Let me try to zoom in here where you guys can see. And I'm going to just apply pressure. And the reason why this veneer is so thin, I've had it just pop off and go back in grain toward the substrate itself. So this helps minimize that. So again, I've just got some 60 grit because I want something very aggressive here. And just eat away at this. And again, I'm not going to go up and down because I don't want to take a chance of breaking the veneer. I'm going to just go side to side. And this 60 grit will make quick work of this. Again, I just want to make sure I'm flush here. We'll clean this up as well with some 120, 320 once we get done. Alright, that's just real quick, so let me just show you here what we've got. And you can see I was able to just sand it flush. I've got just a little bit of an overhang left, so I'll continue to work that down just a bit. Alright, let me go ahead and repeat the same process here on the other side, and then again clean this up just a little bit more. Here you can see the back side, and again after just cleaning it up, again once I got extremely close here to the edge, and then I just removed my block and I just sanded all this nice and flush. Again, you can see the character, personality in the cabinet itself, where I was talking about these pieces are not flat. Really kind of love it though. Really gives the old cabinet some character for sure. So there you have it again, the both pieces there, the veneer now sanded off nice and flush. And again, if you don't want to go up and down, because you have an opportunity to lift the veneer or break it off the back. So again, just sideways, and then always use a block of wood or something flat you can press down as a guidepost as well. Okay, right here on this edge, you can see I was just taking again some of the 60 grit paper. Being very cautious, because again this grit is so low I can easily disform this area here just in a matter of minutes. So I'm just making very little contact here, and all I'm doing is trying to get that loose glue to lift up, and then just take my fingernail here and just see if I can get the pieces off. I'll continue to do that, and then I'll grab some maybe some 220 or 320 grit paper and finish working this out down in this area as well. I'm going to just move right up to some 400 grit and just go back over these areas here very lightly. Again, I'll be removing just a little bit of the toner, of course, from the little piece of veneer here that I had misted, but again, we'll build that back up. Alright, I'll continue to do that. One other thing too, here you can see some glue leak through here. Again, it's down in that channel where part of the quarter round is missing. No big deal, we'll leave that there, because again that whole gap will be filled in with some wood filler, and ditto for this area as well. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. I may have just a little bit of glue right in this area, but maybe I'll try to work that out. Got the top sanded down nice. It was already in great shape. Just touched it up just a bit. And this side right here. I'm going to go ahead and start on this area right here next. Again, where I did the overlap with the quarter round. See if I can knock this edge down. Don't know how thick. I know this veneer I put on is extremely thin, so I think I might just leave the 400 on just for a bit and just sand back here toward the back and see how quick I can knock this down flush. Okay, that worked out perfect. I was able to sand that down where that little bit of an overlap was, nice and flush. Feels good to the finger. That's just a little bit of glue there that you can see. Again, we'll tone over the top of that. It's just where the two areas come together. Might be just a bit high right here still, a little tweaking, but overall here you can see looks great. Let's move along over here to the front piece here where there's a few speed bumps and see if I can clean those up just a bit. I'll touch this up real quick off camera, and then we'll be back on this section. Okay, I'm going to start in this area again. This is where the veneer had separated and split, and again this veneer was fairly thick, so I think there'll be some forgiveness. Again, I'll be sanding with the grain. I'm just going to use my fingers here at first. I do have a little sanding block that I can sand flat here in just a bit, that you can see where I'm able to knock this edge out. So let me go ahead and continue to do that and see if I can get that flush without sanding through the veneer. Okay, this feels pretty good now. It's fairly flush. Again, I've got a little bit of a cavity in this area where there was a split in the veneer, and when I use some grain filler, we'll just let that fill in those areas, and of course we build up the finish with a little bit of lacquer. We'll sand that flat in that area. Again, that'll give the radio some character. Let me move down here and do a little sanding as well in this area. See if I can clean it up just a bit. So I'm getting closer here to getting this nice and flat, best I can. I did hit it just a couple times there with the 60 grit there, just to knock down the real high spot. And again, I've just got some, I think it's 400 grit sandpaper here on the back of my little sanding block here, trying to keep everything nice and flat. So not bad. A little rough in this area here still, right around the edge. So I'm going to see if I can get down in there a little bit better and work that in. And we'll go ahead and sand this again. Okay, again, just putting the final touches on this area here. Just trying to get it as flat as possible. And then I'll go ahead and move along over here to the front piece and clean it up just a bit. Okay, this area over here, I got it the best I could. Again, this grain's raised a little bit in this area where it's a little splintered where it meets the base of the radio, but it's the best I can do with it. Overall, though, I think it looks good. I'm going to go ahead and start sanding up in this area. One thing to be mindful of, too, is this other piece of veneer that comes down. Or it's actually a solid piece of wood, I think, at the top. But again, I got just a little bit of a gap here. And I'll probably fill that in with some wood filler when we get to that point. But just make sure I don't break or snap that edge off. So I'm going to probably just go this way and just lift as I come toward this edge right here. And again, I'm just using 400 grit paper just to knock down the edges. This surface is already nice and flat. Alright, I'm going to knock this down here with some 400 grit and then take my sanding block here and sand it flat. Not really much going on here other than just a little bit of maybe discolorization in this area where some glue leaked through. That'll work out. Pretty straightforward though on this side. Okay, it feels good to me. A little bit of a rough spot right here I'm going to work on. Then start working on this side. Okay, I knocked this down just a bit. That's where there's a nail actually that was protruding through. Had to knock it back up in there just a little bit and then sand it flush. And there was just a little bit of glue bleed through here. I was able to sand it off. I'm trying to be cautious again not to sand through the corner here. That's what some of the discolorization is. Again, it's just where the glue itself leaked through. I'll try to sand that down, but again, once we put toner lacquers on, we won't see that. Okay, I'm getting a little closer here on sanding this side here. Just a little fine tuning that I'll do. Then we'll move along here to this piece of quarter round, and then still got to get to these base pieces as well. Okay, this sanded up really nice over here on this side. Again, not worried about this area again because I'm going to fill this in. And went back here. I remember I had that gap here between the new veneer and this corner piece here where it's just a little bit out of round. So I've sanded that nice and flush. Same thing for this side. So right in this area. I might hit it one more time, but I think that's pretty close. Let me go ahead and move over to this side now and get this cleaned up. And then we'll get started on the base. And then already kind of cleaned up the outside edges as well. Okay, I've got the sides real good. And again, where this rip cut was here on the side pieces, they're always going to be just a little bit rougher. I've got a little bit of a piece here broke off. It's not flush, so I'm going to take some of my 60 grit paper right here and see if I can flatten this out just a bit. This wood right here on the front is so soft. I'm actually just taking my sanding block here with some 400 grit and just trying to sand across those areas. again, just to see if I can pull the valley out just a bit by sanding down the high spots, but not to take away from the design of the cabinet. Let me check that closer and see what we've got. Okay, that's about the best I'm going to be able to do with it. I may have done that myself when I was clamping. This wood is so soft. Again, I may try to knock this down just a little more, but that's pretty close. Okay, folks, just wrapping up here on the base itself, trying to clean it up just a bit. Again, this will be a dark toner. In this area, probably a perfect brown, but again, I'll go ahead and continue just looking over the cabinet. I've got a couple areas here I've got to fill in. I think down here, or was it on this side, that little gap up here. I sanded some more in this area, and I've got it extremely flat now. I'm going to do just a little more here in this area, but again, the thickness of the old veneer allowed me to really get that nice and flat, at least in that area. So let's see, then I'm going to go ahead and start building up the area over here where we've got these voids, and get that first round of wood filler in there. Okay, there you have it. Again, after doing some sanding on it, I think I'm very, very close. Again, I've got some time here to go back and touch up a few areas if there's a need to do so. I'm going to go ahead and start building up this area because it's going to take a day or so for this all to dry, and I'll have to build this up in layers. Again, this area is sanded out pretty good. I was really concerned because I had like a speed bump in this area, and then I got this to come back together. And you can see I got this sanded down. If I had this to do over, I'd have probably just cut it flush, or excuse me, cut it with the precise measurement, and went straight to the quarter round instead of sanding down. I don't think I sanded through the veneer, best I can tell. Still see the grain lines there, so I think I'm okay. Once the toners are on there, we'll be able to bring this back to life. Anyway, cabinet's definitely got some personality. I'll see if I can hold it here at an angle where you can see. It's a little out of square, but what a lovely cabinet. Actually looks good just the way it is. But I'll go ahead and continue to work this area. We'll get the toner lacquers on. Have to look at the old forecast here. Looks like we've got some high humidity days in the forecast, so this thing may have to go on the shelf for a few days before we can spray any lacquer. We'll see. Okay, again, I'm going to go ahead and just use the Elmer's wood filler. I've used it in the past with great success. I'll fill these voids again. I won't be able to get them completely filled here on fill number 1. But what I want to do when I get closer, I'll probably just pull out some of my Timbermate product. I think I've got a walnut filler, and I'll fill the top here with the walnut just so it's a little darker. Or I may add just a bit of dye to this particular filler and try to match the existing color here of this quarter round piece. I was just looking for something that would fit down in here, and just use this screwdriver right here and just see if I can press some down. That will minimize my cleanup here on the sides. Again, this stuff just cleans up with water, but you don't clean it up before it dries, and you're going to just do more sanding for nothing. Alright, I'll go ahead and continue to fill in these voids here, and I'll come back with a update and show you guys what we've got. Okay, I think that's good for now. Try to hold that at an angle where you guys can see it. Let's get back down here on this section now. Okay, I'm going to just take a damp paper cloth here, and just go back over it as well just to smooth it out, and you can see what I was looking for. And again, I'm still just a little bit below the surface. Let me repeat that for this section here. Yeah, I almost forgot about this little section up here too, where the top piece didn't meet the top or the front fascia here of this centerpiece. So filled in those voids as well. Okay guys, so I'm going to take a little bit of my acrylic paint here, some of the burnt sienna, mix it in with the wood filler here, and just get a closer match to that existing quarter round. So let me get that mixed up here. We'll come back and take a look at it, and then I'll go ahead and apply it to the cabinet. Okay, I think I've got this the color I wanted. Again, it's not exact, but you can see it's just a little bit darker. So see here the color. It's fairly close. Let me get a little bit here on the cabinet. Let's in these areas, and let's see what it looks like. Okay guys, I'll show you another trick. I just took a piece of plastic here out of a milk jug, and I cut it round here. Just traced this out, this other corner piece here, quarter round, and now it becomes my form factor for this side. And it's not exact, but it's close enough. So you can see I've got the wood filler in the area, and I'm going to just go back over it one more time, and then I'll smooth it out here with just a bit of water. We'll take a look at it. I'll just let that dry for 2 or 3 hours, then we'll sand it there to match the curvature of the quarter round. Okay, it's not too bad of an effort here. Maybe you can see down if I'm holding the cabinet here at an angle where you guys can see there to reproduce that quarter round missing sections. Again, we'll let this dry for probably 8 hours or more, and then I'll sand it out here, and then fill in again any missing voids. At least the color's a good match.